Inner light, esoteric wisdom for the soul's ascent is devoted to charting that yearning. In the pages that follow, we enter a particularly shadowed region of the esoteric landscape. Baphomet, demon, idol, or code. The secret that destroyed the Templars. To open the tale of Baphomet is to step into the twilight where history and myth entwine, where the fate of the Knights Templar becomes the crucible for one of the most persistent legends in Western lore. Baphomet, the enigmatic, accursed idol, has haunted the imagination for centuries, not merely as a demon or a figment of medieval panic, but as a symbol, a code, a challenge to the boundaries of forbidden knowledge. Across the centuries, the human soul has hungered for enlightenment, a yearning not merely for knowledge, but for wisdom that transforms. In every age, there have been those who dared to seek the light that lies beyond the boundaries of sanctioned doctrine, risking censure, exile, or death in pursuit of the mysteries said to dwell in shadowed corners of existence. One such shadow, long and beguiling, stretches across the history of the West. The legend of Baphomet, the so-called idol whose name became synonymous with blasphemy, heresy, and forbidden wisdom. To speak of Baphomet is to venture into a realm where the distinctions between history and myth dissolve, and where the fate of the Knights Templar, once the most powerful and enigmatic order in Christendom, becomes the crucible for one of the most enduring legends of the esoteric tradition. Far from being a mere fantasy of medieval panic, Baphomet persists as a symbol, a code, and a challenge to the boundaries between the sacred and the profane. This talk seeks to chart the evolution of the Baphomet myth from its origins in the turmoil of the Crusades, through the intrigues of medieval courts, to its modern afterlife in occultism, psychology, and popular culture. In so doing, it reveals not only the story of an order destroyed and a legend born, but also the deeper patterns of projection, repression, and longing that shape the Western spiritual imagination. The world before the Templars. To understand the peculiar destiny of the Knights Templar, one must first appreciate the world from which they emerged. The 11th century was an age of faith and anxiety, of holy dreams and apocalyptic fears. The world of Latin Christendom was beset by threats both internal and external. The lingering memory of the Viking and Magyar invasions, the restlessness of ambitious nobles, and above all the challenge posed by the rapid expansion of Islam, which had by then swept across North Africa, the Levant, and much of Iberia. Jerusalem, the navel of the world in Christian imagination, had been under Muslim rule for centuries. Pilgrimage to the Holy Sepulchre remained a cherished ideal, but the journey was fraught with peril, robbery, enslavement, extortion, and sometimes death. The call to arms issued by Pope Urban II in 1095, which would become the First Crusade, was both a response to appeals from the Byzantine East and an attempt to channel the violence of European nobility into a cause that promised spiritual reward and eternal renown. The Crusades, however, were not merely wars of conquest. They were drenched in the language of redemption and sacrifice. The knight was called not only to fight but to sanctify his violence, to become a Milites Christi, a soldier of Christ who bore the sword as a spiritual as well as temporal weapon. Founding of the Templar Order. It was amidst the aftermath of the First Crusade, as the Latin Kingdom of Jerusalem struggled to maintain its fragile hold on the Holy City and its hinterlands, that the first Templars appeared. In 1119, Hugues de Payens, a knight of Champagne, together with 8 companions, pledged themselves to a life of poverty, chastity, and obedience, vowing also to protect Christian pilgrims journeying to the sacred places of Palestine. King Baldwin II of Jerusalem, recognizing both their piety and their military potential, granted them quarters within the former Al-Aqsa Mosque, which stood atop the Temple Mount, believed to be the site of Solomon's Temple. This gesture was more than a practical matter. It bestowed upon the nascent order a mystique and a sense of destiny drawn from the deepest wells of biblical history. Henceforth, they would be known as the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, or, more simply, the Knights Templar. The Templar rule, discipline and devotion. With the support of Bernard of Clairvaux, a towering figure of medieval spirituality, the Templars received formal recognition from the Church at the Council of Troyes in 1129. Bernard himself composed the Liber ad Milites Templi, a treatise extolling the new knighthood that united the ascetic rigors of the monastic life with the martial virtues of the warrior. The rule of the Templars was austere in the extreme. It enjoined poverty, chastity, and obedience, forbade personal property, and prescribed a communal life shaped by prayer, silence, and discipline. The knights wore a distinctive white mantle, emblazoned with a red cross, a sign of martyrdom and absolute devotion. They ate in silence, slept in their armor, and were to be ever ready to ride to the defense of the faith. Yet the Templars were not monks who had reluctantly taken up the sword. They were warriors who willingly embraced the disciplines of the cloister. Their fusion of martial and spiritual ideals made them unique in the religious landscape of the age, and won them the admiration, and, later, the envy, of kings and commoners alike. Expansion and power. Within a generation, the order had spread across Christendom. Templar preceptories appeared in England, France, the Iberian kingdoms, Italy, and beyond. Their wealth grew apace, fueled by donations of land and treasure from grateful monarchs and nobles. The Templars became not only a military order but a financial powerhouse, developing systems of banking, credit, and international communication that were unrivaled in the medieval world. In the Levant, the Templars fought heroically, sometimes fanatically, against the forces of Islam. Chroniclers praised their courage at the sieges of Ascalon, Anch, and Jerusalem. They were often the first to charge and the last to retreat, preferring death to dishonor. Their discipline, organization, and esprit de corps became legendary. Yet their wealth and independence, their exemption from local authority and their direct answerability to the papacy bred suspicion and resentment. Kings who borrowed money from the order resented their creditors. Bishops who chafed at Templar privilege whispered of arrogance and pride. And always there was the shadow of secrecy, the rituals of initiation, the closed chapters, the rumors of hidden teachings or forbidden rites. Secrecy, ritual, and the birth of suspicion. From the outset, the Templar Order was enveloped in a certain mystery. Their ceremonies of admission were conducted behind closed doors, away from the eyes of the laity and even the secular clergy. Initiates swore solemn oaths of obedience, poverty, and loyalty to the order above all else. The secrecy was practical, intended to preserve discipline and protect the order's interests, but it was also, inevitably, a source of gossip and conjecture. As the Templars' influence grew, so too did the number of their detractors. Rival orders, jealous nobles, and ambitious monarchs began to circulate rumors. The Templars, it was whispered, had brought back strange customs from the East. They possessed secret knowledge, perhaps even magical powers. Some claimed they venerated a mysterious idol, or practiced rites learned from Saracens and heretics. The evidence for such claims was always circumstantial, if not wholly invented. Yet in an age when heresy was feared as the greatest of all crimes, even the faintest whiff of doctrinal deviation could prove fatal. Twilight in the Holy Land and the gathering storm, the decline of the Crusader states by the late 13th century. The fortunes of the Crusader kingdoms in the Levant were in irrevocable decline. The great victories of the First Crusade had, over the course of 2 centuries, given way to a relentless series of setbacks. The rise of powerful and charismatic Muslim leaders, most notably Saladin, brought renewed unity and vigor to the Islamic polities of the region. The loss of Jerusalem in 1187, following the disastrous defeat at the Battle of Hattin, sent shockwaves through Christendom. Although the Templars, alongside their rivals the Hospitallers and the Teutonic Knights, continued to defend the last outposts of Christian power, Acre, Tyre, and Tripoli, their resources were increasingly stretched. Successive crusading expeditions from Europe proved unable to turn the tide. The cost in men and money was immense, the rewards ever more elusive. The final blow came in 1291, when Acre, the last major Crusader stronghold, fell to the Mamluks after a brutal siege. The Templars fought with their customary courage, but were ultimately compelled to abandon their headquarters, escaping by sea to Cyprus with only a handful of survivors and a bitter sense of defeat. The Templars in exile, wealth, power, and suspicion in the aftermath of the loss of the Holy Land, the Templars found themselves at a crossroads. Their original mission, to defend pilgrims and the holy places, seemed, to some, obsolete. Yet the order remained immensely wealthy and powerful, its preceptories and estates spread across the kingdoms of Europe. The Templars had become bankers to kings, guardians of treasure, and trusted agents of the papacy. Their financial network was intricate and effective. They held deposits, transferred funds, issued letters of credit, and even facilitated ransom payments for captured monarchs. This unique position rendered them both invaluable and dangerous. The order was exempt from local laws and answerable only to the Pope, a privilege that made them, in effect, a state within a state. Their discipline, secrecy, and international reach were the envy of monarchs and the irritation of bishops and barons. The Templars owned castles, manors, and urban properties in almost every realm. Their coffers were deep, their archives extensive, and their loyalty, it was said, was to the order above all else. Such autonomy, while practical in the heyday of the Crusades, became a source of suspicion in the more cynical and crisis-ridden Europe of the early 14th century. The order's continuing wealth, its exemption from taxation, and its refusal to merge with other military orders, as some in the papal curia proposed, led to mounting criticism. Chroniclers began to record the grumblings of the disaffected. The Templars were arrogant, they were secretive, they were too powerful for their own good. The seeds of the Baphomet legend. It was in this context of anxiety and resentment that the first rumors of Templar heresy began to circulate. The order's critics seized upon the secrecy of its rituals. The ceremonies of initiation, conducted in private chapels and shrouded in oaths, became the subject of fevered speculation. What, people asked, were the Templars doing behind closed doors? What secrets did they keep? By the late 13th century, the name Baphomet began to appear in European sources. The earliest mentions are vague and ambiguous. In Old French accounts, the word Baphomet, or Baphomets, is used as a term of abuse, often directed against Saracens or as a synonym for Mahomet, the Prophet Muhammad. Indeed, the chronicler Anselm of Riedmont, writing about the First Crusade, describes the pagans invoking Baphomet in battle. Similarly, the Chanson de Simon Puy, a 12th century epic, includes the phrase Baphomets, apparently as an insult. Yet what did Baphomet signify to the medieval mind? Was it a garbled reference to Islam, a cipher for heresy, or something more arcane? The evidence is, at best, circumstantial. What is clear is that the word's very ambiguity made it a fertile vessel for the anxieties of the age. The Templar initiation, ritual, secrecy, and accusation. Little is known, with certainty, about the rituals of Templar admission. The rule of the order prescribes a ceremony in which the candidate professes his faith, swears obedience, and is invested with the mantle. Yet the actual proceedings were conducted in secret and, as with all closed societies, this secrecy bred speculation. Inquisitors and critics would later claim that the Templars renounced Christ, spat upon the cross, engaged in obscene acts, and worshipped a mysterious idol, sometimes described as a head, sometimes as a cat, sometimes as a black stone. The lack of concrete evidence did little to deter such stories. In an era when heresy was a capital crime and when the machinery of Inquisition was increasingly sophisticated, rumor could be as deadly as proof. The Templars, once lauded as paragons of Christian knighthood, were now being painted as heretics, dangerous, decadent, and corrupt. The political climate, Kings, popes, and the struggle for power. The early 14th century was a time of immense political tension. The papacy, once secure in Rome, had relocated to Avignon and become increasingly entangled in French affairs. The kings of England and France, perpetually at odds, were struggling with debt, war, and the challenge of maintaining authority over fractious nobles and ambitious clergy. Into this fraught atmosphere stepped King Philip IV of France, known as Philip the Fair. Ambitious, intelligent, and ruthless, Philip was determined to assert royal authority over all rivals, secular and spiritual alike. His conflicts with Pope Boniface VIII and the eventual installation of the papacy at Avignon are well attested. He was also, by the first decade of the 14th century, deeply in debt to the Templars, who had served as bankers and creditors to the crown. For Philip, the Templars represented both a financial opportunity and a political threat. Their wealth was a tempting prize, their independence an affront to royal authority. The king began to lay the groundwork for a campaign of destruction, a campaign that would make use of rumor, suspicion, and the machinery of state to bring the order to its knees. The fateful morning, Friday the 13th. The dawn of the 13th of October, 1307 would be remembered as a day of infamy in the annals of Western Christendom. Acting in utmost secrecy, King Philip IV's agents fanned out across France, armed with sealed orders to be opened and executed simultaneously. The command was unambiguous. Every Templar house was to be raided, its members arrested, and its treasures seized for the crown. The operation was a masterstroke of royal bureaucracy and ruthlessness. Hundreds of Templars were taken into custody in a single morning. Their assets, estates, gold, documents, were confiscated. The public, initially stunned, soon found itself swept up in a torrent of lurid rumors. News of the arrests spread rapidly. In other realms, monarchs hesitated, uncertain whether to follow France's lead. Pope Clement V, a Frenchman installed at Avignon and heavily beholden to Philip, was thrust into a dilemma. The Templars, after all, were technically answerable only to Rome. Yet the momentum of events quickly outpaced the Church's traditional prerogatives. The Catalogue of Accusations. Almost immediately, the arrested knights were presented with a catalogue of extraordinary charges. These included the renunciation of Christ and the Church, spitting and trampling upon the crucifix, engaging in acts of sodomy and obscene kisses as part of their initiation, worshipping a mysterious idol named Baphomet, sometimes described as a severed head, sometimes as a cat, at other times as a black stone, or a figure with multiple faces, practicing sorcery and heretical rites. We should stress that these accusations were not the product of careful investigation or credible witnesses. They were, rather, the result of leading questions, torture, and the self-serving fantasies of the king's advisors. In many respects, the charges mirrored the anxieties and obsessions of the age: fear of the infidel, horror of secret societies, and deep suspicion of anything that lay outside the narrow bounds of orthodoxy. The machinery of Inquisition. The Templars were subjected to the full apparatus of medieval Inquisition. In the dungeons of Paris, Poitiers, and elsewhere, torture was used to extract confessions. The methods ranged from the rack and the strappado to sleep deprivation, starvation, and psychological humiliation. Under such duress, many knights confessed to whatever their interrogators demanded, often contradicting themselves or each other. The records of these interrogations survive in considerable detail. Some Templars described Baphomet as a bearded head, said to bestow riches and fertility. Others spoke of a wooden or metal idol, sometimes with 3 faces. Some denied any knowledge of such a thing. A few, notably senior officers of the order, steadfastly maintained their innocence and retracted their confessions when the threat of immediate pain was lifted. The inconsistencies in these testimonies are striking. Modern historians such as Malcolm Barber and Helen Nicholson have shown how the Inquisitors' questioning was often circular and suggestive, leading the accused towards predetermined conclusions. No physical idol was ever produced, despite exhaustive searches. The very vagueness of the Baphomet accusation contributed to its potency. It was a shape-shifting symbol, capable of absorbing every anxiety and projection that medieval society could conjure. The papal response. Pope Clement V, caught between the demands of the French crown and his own spiritual authority, vacillated. At first, he protested the king's high-handedness, insisting on papal jurisdiction over the order. But the pressure mounted. Philip's campaign of propaganda was relentless, and public opinion began to turn against the Templars. Eventually, Clement ordered his own inquiry, convening commissions in France and elsewhere. The outcome, however, was largely foregone. The confessions, however extracted, were entered into the record. The Templars' enemies were emboldened, their supporters cowed into silence or marginalized. In 1312, at the Council of Vienne, Clement suppressed the order by papal bull, not formally condemning it as heretical, but declaring that its reputation was irreparably sullied and its mission ended. The order's property was, in theory, transferred to the Hospitallers. In practice, much of it was seized by local powers or lost in the chaos. The martyrdom of Jacques de Molay. The final act of the Templar tragedy played out on the Isle de la site in Paris. Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master, together with Geoffrey de Charnay and other high-ranking officials, was sentenced to life imprisonment. However, when brought out to hear his sentence, de Molay publicly recanted his forced confession, proclaiming the innocence of the order and calling upon God to judge their persecutors. Enraged, Philip ordered that de Molay and his companions be burned at the stake as relapsed heretics. On the 18th of March, 1314, de Molay died in flames on the banks of the Seine, reportedly maintaining his composure and piety to the end. According to later chroniclers, he issued a curse upon both the king and the pope, summoning them to appear before God's tribunal within the year. Remarkably, both Clement V and Philip IV did indeed die within months, and the Capetian dynasty soon fell into crisis, a sequence of events that would be woven into the legend of the curse of the Templars. The aftermath, Baphomet Unbound. The destruction of the Templars sent shockwaves throughout Europe. The Order's lands were divided, its archives scattered or burned, its surviving members imprisoned, banished, or forced into obscurity. Yet the legend of Baphomet did not die with the flames of the pyre. Instead, it began a strange second life, mutating and expanding with each retelling. Chroniclers, polemicists, and poets seized upon the story, embellishing the figure of Baphomet with ever more fantastical attributes. In some versions, it became a goat-headed demon, in others a hermetic symbol, or a cipher for secret wisdom. The lack of any physical evidence only added to its allure. Baphomet became a blank canvas onto which the fears and fascinations of each new age could be projected. Baphomet as shadow, psychology, philosophy, and the mirror of the soul, the Jungian lens. Encountering the shadow to move beyond the outer forms and shifting legends of Baphomet is to confront a question at the very heart of both esoteric and psychological tradition. What does this figure represent within us? Here, the insights of Carl Gustav Jung, the 20th century Swiss psychiatrist and founder of analytical psychology, offer a powerful interpretive key. Jung introduced to Western thought the critical notion of the shadow, that aspect of the psyche which contains all that the conscious ego refuses to acknowledge, our fears, instincts, desires, and forgotten wounds. The shadow, Jung argued, is not evil in itself, but is rendered destructive when denied or projected onto others. When individuals or societies refuse to face their own darkness, it returns in the form of scapegoating, paranoia, and violence. Jung's theories were deeply influenced by his study of alchemy, Gnosticism, and the Western esoteric tradition. In figures like Baphomet, he saw archetypes, primordial images charged with psychic power, capable of mediating between the conscious mind and the deeper currents of the unconscious. Baphomet as the ultimate shadow figure. Consider Baphomet's ambiguous form. Goat-headed, androgynous, combining animal and angel, light and dark, masculine and feminine. It is this very ambiguity that makes the figure so potent as a symbol of the shadow. Baphomet is the other within, the part of ourselves and our culture that is cast out, denied, or demonized. For the medieval world, Baphomet embodied all the anxieties that could not be safely admitted. Doubts about faith, fascination with forbidden knowledge, sexual ambiguity, and the allure of the East. In accusing the Templars of worshipping such a figure, society was in effect projecting its own repressed fears onto a convenient scapegoat. Jung warned that when the shadow is not integrated, it is projected, most often onto minorities, heretics, or outsiders. This dynamic lies at the root of witch hunts, inquisitions, and persecutions throughout history. The Templars, once the champions of Christendom, became its designated other, sacrificed to preserve the illusion of unity and purity. Yet the work of individuation, the process by which the individual becomes whole, requires that we turn and face the shadow, integrating its lessons rather than fleeing or projecting them. In this sense, Baphomet stands as a perpetual challenge. Will we dare to confront what we most fear within ourselves and our culture, or will we continue to cast it out, only to have it return in ever more monstrous form? The alchemical marriage, reconciliation of opposites in alchemical symbolism. The great work is the conjunctio, the sacred marriage of sun and moon, king and queen, spirit and matter. The task of the alchemist is not to destroy the dark or exalt the light, but to unite them in a new, more complete synthesis. Baphomet, as envisioned by Eliphas Levi, is the very image of this union. One hand pointing up, the other down, breasts and phallus, human and animal, torch of illumination crowning the head. The inscription Solve et coagula, dissolve and coagulate, captures the heart of the alchemical process. One must dissolve inherited forms, break down the rigidities of ego and social conditioning, in order to reform and integrate a new, more authentic self. This is not merely a mystical fantasy, but a profound psychological truth. Transformation, whether personal or collective, demands the courage to endure dissolution, to face chaos and uncertainty, before new order can emerge. Baphomet as archetype, beyond good and evil as an archetype, Baphomet transcends the categories of good and evil, sacred and profane. It invites us to recognize that wholeness is not achieved by repressing the bad in favor of the good, but by integrating the full spectrum of human experience. The figure's androgyny, its simultaneous affirmation of animal and angelic, material and spiritual, is a visual argument against reductive binaries. In Jung's terms, individuation is always a dialectical process. It requires holding the tension of opposites until a new synthesis can be realized. Baphomet, as a symbol, does not offer easy comfort or shallow reconciliation. It demands that we accept ambiguity, paradox, and the unfinished nature of the work. This dialectical insight is not limited to the personal realm. In ethics and politics, the temptation to divide the world into pure and impure, friend and enemy, saved and damned, is a perennial source of conflict and suffering. Baphomet's lesson, if we are willing to hear it, is that such divisions are always partial and provisional. The true work is to recognize the other within, to become, in the words of mystical tradition, a whole person, capable of embracing the contradictions that make life rich and strange. Contemporary case studies, Baphomet in art, identity, and activism. The power of Baphomet as a mirror and catalyst for transformation is apparent in contemporary culture. Artists and writers have repeatedly returned to the figure as a muse, whether in the surrealist paintings of Salvador Dali, the dark, transformative narratives of Alan Moore and Grant Morrison, or the boundary-pushing performances of avant-garde theatre and drag. In the sphere of identity politics, Baphomet's androgynous form has been reclaimed by queer and trans communities as a symbol of pride, ambiguity, and resistance to binary norms. For those at the margins of mainstream culture, by gender, sexuality, belief, or creative vocation, Baphomet offers a model for embracing difference and integrating opposites. The Satanic Temple's public use of Baphomet statues in campaigns for religious pluralism and freedom of expression is a vivid example of the figure's continuing political potency. Here, Baphomet becomes a tool for exposing the limits of established order, a way of holding up a mirror to society's contradictions. In spiritual practice, Baphomet is invoked in meditation, ritual, and philosophical reflection as a guide to the mysteries of transformation. For some, it is a focus for alchemical or Kabbalistic work. For others, a companion on the path of self-discovery. The ongoing work, embracing the shadow Baphomet's refusal to be fixed or defined, is perhaps its greatest strength. In a world increasingly aware of the dangers of binary thinking and the necessity of integrating difference, Baphomet stands as a reminder that the sacred is not limited to the light, nor the profane to the dark. Both are indispensable, and the work of wholeness is never complete. To engage with Baphomet is to accept an invitation to the threshold, a place where certainty dissolves and the boundaries between self and other, sacred and profane, are rendered fluid. The figure's legacy, rooted in the trauma of Templar destruction but flowering across centuries of esoteric speculation and countercultural rebellion, continues to offer profound lessons for those who seek meaning beyond inherited certainties. Baphomet and the sacred, mysticism, ritual, and the path of integration, the sacred and the profane. Redefining boundaries. As we have seen, Baphomet's history is one of constant tension between sacred and profane, accepted and forbidden. Its ambiguous nature makes it an ideal symbol for exploring the fluid boundaries between what society deems holy and what it casts out as heretical or taboo. In traditional religious contexts, the sacred is often defined by exclusion, the drawing of boundaries, the separation of light from darkness, order from chaos. Yet the esoteric tradition, to which Baphomet belongs, insists that the quest for wisdom requires a journey through both realms. The initiate must pass through the darkness, confront the shadow, and integrate what is found there in order to attain true illumination. This dialectic is central to mystical and spiritual traditions across cultures. In Kabbalah, the process of tikkun, the repair and integration of the broken vessels, demands the transformation of darkness into light. In Sufi mysticism, the encounter with the nafs, lower self, is a necessary stage before the soul can ascend. In alchemy, the descent into nigredo, blackness, precedes the attainment of gold. Baphomet, standing at the threshold, invites the seeker to cross the line and embrace the full spectrum of human experience, not as a matter of license or indulgence, but as the path to wholeness. Ritual and practice, the symbol in action for contemporary spiritual practitioners, Baphomet functions as more than an icon. It is a catalyst for transformation, a focus for ritual and meditation. In magical and esoteric contexts, the figure is invoked as a guardian of initiation, a guide through the labyrinth of the self. A typical ritual might involve visualization of the Baphomet image, contemplation of its opposites, and the recitation of alchemical or hermetic formulae such as solve et coagula. The purpose is not to worship the figure in a literal sense, but to use it as a tool for awakening, the integration of rejected aspects, the reconciliation of tensions, and the fostering of creative potential. In some traditions, Baphomet is associated with the great work, the ongoing process of spiritual evolution in which the adept seeks to unite matter and spirit, conscious and unconscious, male and female. The ritual act becomes a form of psychological and spiritual alchemy, dissolving inherited patterns and coagulating new forms of being. Gender, identity, and liberation. One of the most striking aspects of Baphomet's modern resonance is its role in discourses of gender and identity. The androgynous form, the combination of breasts and phallus, has made the figure a symbol for those who reject binary categories and embrace fluid, non-conforming identities. In queer and transgender communities, Baphomet is sometimes honored as a patron of difference, a guardian of authenticity, and a reminder that the journey to selfhood demands both courage and creativity. The refusal to conform, the embrace of multiplicity and ambiguity, is a powerful act of reclamation, an assertion that every person has the right to define their own path and integrate the full richness of their experience. Artistic and literary representations of Baphomet often reflect this theme, exploring hybridity, transformation, and the dance of opposites. Whether in the surrealist canvases of modern painters, the speculative fiction of contemporary authors, or the performances of avant-garde theatre, the figure serves as both muse and mirror. Ethics and the shadow in modern society. The ethical implications of Baphomet's symbolism are profound. To integrate the shadow is not to abandon moral discernment, but to move beyond simplistic divisions of good and evil. Jung's insight, echoed in mystical traditions, is that the refusal to acknowledge our own darkness leads inevitably to projection, scapegoating, and violence. In public life, the invocation of Baphomet by activist groups such as the Satanic Temple is a deliberate challenge to established boundaries. Their campaigns, intended to highlight issues of religious freedom and pluralism, use the figure as a way of holding up a mirror to dominant culture, revealing its inconsistencies, exposing its exclusions, and calling for a broader, more inclusive understanding of the sacred. Such acts are often met with fear, outrage, or misunderstanding. Yet they serve an essential function. They prompt society to ask difficult questions about what it means to be whole, what it means to honor difference, and what it means to live ethically in a world of ambiguity and paradox. Case studies: Baphomet in contemporary spirituality and culture. The Satanic Temple and religious pluralism. In the United States, the Satanic Temple's efforts to install Baphomet statues alongside Christian monuments have generated national debate. These campaigns, far from advocating literal devil worship, are designed to test the principles of religious liberty and challenge the privileging of one tradition over others. They force society to confront the meaning of the sacred in a pluralistic age, and to grapple with the discomfort of difference. Artistic reclamation. Visual artists and musicians have used Baphomet as a motif to explore identity, trauma, and transformation. The figure appears in everything from heavy metal album covers, where it symbolizes rebellion and nonconformity, to experimental theater, where it becomes a mask for exploring taboo and the fluidity of form. Personal transformation. For individual seekers, meditation on Baphomet can serve as a tool for shadow work and self-integration. By contemplating the figure's ambiguity, practitioners are invited to confront their own fears, desires, and rejected qualities, learning to hold the tension of opposites and move towards greater wholeness. The path of integration. If there is a single lesson to be drawn from the long and labyrinthine history of Baphomet, it is this: the work of integration is never finished. The shadow, whether personal or collective, cannot be banished by denial or violence. It must be faced, engaged, and understood. Baphomet, as symbol and archetype, stands at the threshold, beckoning each new generation to the task of reconciling light and darkness, sacred and profane, self and other. The journey is perilous, demanding humility, courage, and an openness to transformation. Yet it is also liberating, offering the possibility of a deeper wisdom and a more authentic engagement with the world. Light and darkness. Philosophical reflections on Baphomet and the Templar legacy. The necessity of darkness. In the Western philosophical tradition, darkness is often set in opposition to light. Ignorance to knowledge, evil to good, chaos to order. Yet the deeper current of esoteric thought, running through mystery religions, Hermeticism, alchemy, and mystical Christianity, has always insisted upon a more nuanced understanding. Darkness, in these traditions, is not merely the absence of light but its necessary complement, an essential part of the dialectic of existence. The image of Baphomet, poised between extremes, embodies this insight. The figure's very form, one hand up, one down, one face bestial, another serene. A body marked by both masculine and feminine, challenges the logic of either or. Instead, it invites us into a paradoxical both and, to consider that the highest wisdom is found not in the denial of darkness, but in its embrace and transformation. Hegel, Dialectics, and the synthesis of opposites. Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, the great 19th century German philosopher, developed a dialectical method that resonates deeply with the symbolism of Baphomet. Hegel argued that progress, whether in thought, history, or spirit, arises not from the triumph of one pole over another, but from their interplay and eventual synthesis. Every thesis gives rise to its antithesis, and the conflict between them is resolved not by annihilation, but by a higher integration. Baphomet, as a living symbol, enacts this very dialectic. It is the thesis, light, order, consciousness, and the antithesis, darkness, chaos, unconsciousness, held together in creative tension, awaiting their synthesis in a more comprehensive wholeness. The alchemical maxim solve et coagula is, in effect, a call to this dialectical work. Dissolve the old forms, embrace the contradictions, and allow something new and more inclusive to emerge. Wholeness and healing, the psychological task. In the realm of psychology, Jung's concept of individuation offers both a metaphor and a methodology for this work. To individuate is to become whole, not by erasing difference or denying conflict, but by integrating all aspects of the self, including those that have been repressed, denied, or projected onto others. Baphomet, as archetype, is a guide to this journey. Its monstrous, ambiguous form is a reminder that what we fear or despise in ourselves is often the source of our greatest potential for growth. The confrontation with the shadow, though terrifying, is also an invitation to healing, a call to reclaim the lost, the wounded, and the exiled parts of our being. In a collective sense, societies must also undertake the work of integration. The persecution of the Templars, the scapegoating of minorities, the cycles of exclusion and violence that mark human history, all are symptoms of a refusal to face the collective shadow. The legend of Baphomet endures because it points to the unfinished business of the human spirit, the necessity of reckoning with darkness in order to find the light. The Templar legacy, warning and inspiration. The fate of the Knights Templar serves as both a warning and an inspiration. Their rise and fall illustrate the dangers of unchecked power, the perils of projection and scapegoating, and the tragic consequences of a society that seeks purity through exclusion. Yet the persistence of their story, and the resurrection of Baphomet as a symbol of integration and transformation, also testifies to the resilience of the human quest for meaning. For centuries, the Templars have been appropriated by countless movements: Freemasons, revolutionaries, occultists, and artists, each finding in their story a mirror for their own struggles and aspirations. The legend of Baphomet, once a tool of persecution, has been reclaimed as a banner of freedom, authenticity, and the refusal to be defined by the categories of the past. The invitation to the threshold. To stand before Baphomet is to stand at the threshold, the place where light meets darkness, where certainty dissolves and new possibilities emerge. This is, at heart, the place of all true initiation, the moment when the seeker must leave behind inherited certainties and risk the unknown in search of a deeper wisdom. The invitation of Baphomet is not to worship the darkness, nor to deny the light, but to recognize their mutual necessity and to undertake the ongoing work of their integration. This is the alchemical task, the psychological task, the ethical task, the work that defines the path of the seeker in every age. Case study: Baphomet and the contemporary quest for wisdom. Consider, as an example, the rise of shadow work in contemporary spiritual and therapeutic practice. Whether through Jungian analysis, mindfulness meditation, or expressive arts, individuals are increasingly drawn to practices that seek not the suppression, but the integration of difficult emotions, wounds, and desires. In many such circles, the figure of Baphomet serves as a visual touchstone, a reminder that wholeness is found not by fleeing from discomfort, but by embracing it with awareness and compassion. In the broader culture, debates over religious pluralism, gender identity, and freedom of expression often revolve around questions of boundary and integration. Who is included, who is excluded, and how can difference be honored without falling into fragmentation or violence? Baphomet, as a symbol, continues to provoke, to unsettle, and to inspire precisely because it refuses to offer simple answers. Conclusion: the unfinished work. The myth and the mandate. The myth of Baphomet, born in the fires of persecution and refined through centuries of speculation and creativity, endures because it speaks to perennial questions. What have we cast into the darkness? What are the costs of our divisions? How might we become, individually and collectively, more whole? The work that Baphomet symbolizes, the integration of opposites, the embrace of ambiguity, the courage to cross the threshold, is never finished. Each generation is called anew to the task, to hold the tension of light and darkness, to confront the shadow within and without, and to seek the wisdom that lies beyond inherited certainties. The light that shines in darkness. For the spiritual seeker, artist, philosopher, or rebel, Baphomet is an enduring companion, a reminder that wisdom is not found in flight from the world, but in engagement with its full complexity. The sacred is present not only in the light, but in the darkness as well. The curse of Baphomet, if such there be, is the curse of consciousness itself. The knowledge that every ascent requires a descent, that the soul's journey is as much about integration as it is about transcendence. The invitation endures. As we conclude this exploration, let us recall that the power of Baphomet lies in its refusal to be fixed, silenced, or made safe. It is the riddle at the heart of the Western tradition, the guardian of the threshold, the whisper in the night that calls the seeker to adventure. To answer that call is to risk everything, and to gain, in return, the freedom and responsibility of being fully human. May the shadow of Baphomet, rather than inspiring fear, awaken in us the courage to seek, the humility to question, and the wisdom to unite what has been divided. The myth endures because the work it symbolizes remains unfinished, beckoning each new generation to the threshold where light and darkness meet. If you found value in this exploration, please consider sharing your thoughts, continuing the conversation, and inviting others to cross the threshold with you. The story lives on in every seeker who dares to look beyond the veil.